Hey, good afternoon. It is Friday afternoon, and with that, we have Real Estate with Remax. I'm Lance Hansen, and what we talk about on this show is real estate from kind of a common perspective, how it relates from a national news down to the local area news, and how things relate with that. And today, we're going to talk about some things. We're going to talk about home affordability. We're going to talk about the cost of waiting, what could happen if you're on the fence right now, and we're going to talk about investing a little bit and how you can get started in investing, what you can do with that. My guest today is Matt Morrow. He's a broker owner from our South Side office. So I'll tell you what, if you'll just stick with us, stay streaming for about a minute or so, we'll be right back. Thanks.
From the REMAX Real Estate Concept Studios. Listen, watch, chat. This is Webcast One Live. Programs on webcastonelive.com are brought to you in part by KDC Builders, building custom homes for how you live. KDC will take your dreams and turn them into reality. Go to our website, kdcbuilt.com, or call Hannah Inman at 515-975-9990. And Tom Coates and ConsumerCreditOfAmerica.com. Are you overwhelmed with mounted credit card debt and feel there's no way out? Well, there is. Call 1-800-955-5765 for Consumer Credit of America. That's ccofamerica.com.
Hey, thanks for streaming along, and welcome back to Real Estate with Remax, and welcome to Alma, my ever-present co-host. I'm glad that you're here.
I'm glad I'm here this time too.
Looking forward to your input. We were talking before the break that we're going to talk a little bit about some home affordability because the index is just ridiculous. And we'll talk a little bit about how you develop that index and what that's about. We're going to talk about a little bit about cost of waiting because right now you stand to literally lose thousands of dollars if the time is right and you ride the fence a little too long. And then we're going to talk a little bit about investing in real estate now and how many people are coming in. So that's a little overview of what's going on and what we're going to do. And Matt Morrow, welcome to the show. It's been a while since you've been on with me.
Well, with you for sure, yeah. It has been a while. Thanks for
I
having
know
me.
I know you've been cheating on us and going to other shows.
I have been.
And I just want you to know right up front, I was absolutely jealous.
You were?
I was. You know,
Well,
he's out seeing Tina on her show and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and we get nothing.
There's plenty of me to go around. There's plenty of me to go around.
Okay. Matt is the broker owner of
That's
the
right.
Southside office of Remax Real Estate Concepts.
That's correct.
And don't let his young face fool you. He's been around in the business for a long time.
Yes, 16 years to be exact.
16 years, and he
Yes.
started when he was 12.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I feel like it. That's for sure. 18.
Well-
Not much out of high school. So
Yeah.
just a few months.
And there's so almost the same as Alma. She just had a birthday. You turned 18, right? Is that?
You go ahead and make me smile.
I'm trying to make up because
Okay.
I said
23.
20
I just turned 23.
okay. Yeah, we'll go with that then. Okay.
I don't
That
think
sounds-
anybody would question 23 for you.
No,
You look-
not at all. Oh, you smooth talker,
I
you.
know.
He's slick, ain't he?
He is
Yeah,
like, isn't
yeah.
he?
Southside guy. you know.
South-
Yeah.
Southside guy,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. That's
You
where
learn
he
how to
gets
talk.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
That's all Southside stuff. So anyway, but Matt, you've been around for a while and been selling real estate. I guess one of the things that's kind of crazy is that I've been around for a few years selling real estate, and the nutty thing is that we are probably learning as much as Alma, who hasn't been in for a long time, and I mean it's just the information that pours in and what's going on in this market and qualifying and Alma's favorite subject, short sales, which she just absolutely loves, right?
He just loves to throw that in there.
But
Yeah.
you're
They're
like
so
a short
prominent.
sale specialist, right? A buyer short sale specialist. It's kind of
Yep,
the
very
direction,
much.
kind of the direction you're going. Yeah. So
Moving on.
moving on. So anyway, the market's just changing. Credit is changing. Pricing is changing. So far, though, interest rates aren't changing.
Not too much.
Not too much. So I mean, we've had this little kind of movement up a little, which kind of scared me a little bit because I was like, uh-oh, are we going back up?
Right.
And all the experts seem to think that. So let's talk about, just as a beginning, what's going on in your business and how's that affecting it?
Well, you see a lot of foreclosures still coming in the marketplace, still even today, and I think that keeps prices lower for the majority of homes in some neighborhoods, making them tougher to sell and driving down the neighbor's price who isn't in foreclosure a little bit. Credit, obviously, you mentioned loans are just a little bit harder to get these days, but they're not impossible. I think they've loosened their grip up just a little bit, but there's talk of it getting more difficult, requiring more down payment through FHA and conventional. Right now it's just talk, but if that happens, then that makes it, I think that plays into what you're talking about those people that are on the fence. You know, maybe if your goal is to own a home this year, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but why get in it now versus later? And that's one of the reasons is should the down payment requirement go up, you know, as well as interest rates. Now, the whole government as a whole, they say, is to try to get, of course, people employed. Number one is their first efforts are trying to do that, but they're also to try to push inflation. They want to get things inflation. Well, with that comes higher interest rates. Right now they're low. Let's see what they're like tomorrow.
Yeah. So yeah,
You know, it's a day by day thing.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been around long enough to have built some really good relationships, like with you, Lance, and guys have been around a long time. Sue Mears. So when I call them, I always try to pick their brain and say, okay, what's this like? And, you know, I was talking to Sue Mears, who's a very well-respected agent in this community for a long time.
Yes.
One of my favorite people, too. She had to go back to 1981 to even recall anything like this, where the financing had to be really creative and things like that. So when interest rates were 16%, things like that. So we're not there yet by any means. And our market, I think, is better off than most. But until those foreclosures get cleaned out of here and then the banks stop getting all these new ones, we're going to be in this little lull.
Yep. Yeah, I agree totally. But let's talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about the positive end of this whole thing that we're in, and the positive end is that they have an index that they've tracked for over 20 years now. It's called the Home Affordability Index, and what they do is they took a look at areas and say, okay, here is the median wage. You know what the general population earns annually. And then they take a look at that wage, and then they took a look at the median pricing of that area, and they say, okay, what's the percentage of people that can earn that wage and afford to buy those homes? And for almost 20 of those years, that affordability index ranged between just under 60 and got up into like 65, maybe 66. You know, just kind of floated around there for affordability. And we are right now approaching 75% of home affordability. And so what we're seeing is this real, and I don't know how long we've talked about, you know, the meeting of lowering prices and lowering interest and meeting in there to make those homes more affordable for more of the population. But it's at a 20-plus year high for affordability. That's across the whole nation.
That's terrific.
And then there's pockets that, you know, we're up and down. Certainly, you know, if you get out northeast and, you know, New York area and California, some of those areas, there's as few as 16% that can afford to buy the median price housing in the area. But in the Midwest, we tend to be up on that upper end of that, where we're talking 75, even 80% of people are starting to be able to purchase that home and live, quote, the American dream. And
what's the hesitation of buyers, you think, right now? Because what I think we're lacking in this market and a lot of other markets is a great buyer pool, at least as strong like they were 5 years ago, obviously.
Well, I think there's a whole combination of things, and you're out with buyers, but the perception that we're still in lowering prices, that I think buyers still think, well, I don't know if it's the time to buy now. What if they go down more? And, the news programs and stuff continue to say, well, we could have another however many percent reduction in pricing. So I think there's a little hesitation there. Certainly the unemployment factor, where, even people that have jobs, some of them are still thinking, how long am I going to have that?
So the job security alone.
Yeah.
Just
is this the right time for me when I could get laid off, 2 weeks from now?
Right.
And so I think that's a factor in it. And then one of the other factors, and it's more driven by news, but there's some reality to it, and that's that the credit standards have tightened up. And so I think there's a misperception by people that they think, well, I don't have 700 credit score. I don't have 20% down. I don't have those things, so there's not really the options for me to go out and buy a house right now. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I think one of the catalysts that we're seeing right now is that when you start seeing investors flood the market and start going in and buying homes, that's a real sign that the market is in the right spot. And we are seeing that definitely here in the Des Moines area.
Sure.
And I think, it's spreading throughout, where investors take a look and say, right now, I think we're at a bottom. We're low enough that it's time to move. And so we're seeing the highest level of cash input into the real estate market than we've seen in a number of years. And that's those investors that have had cash sitting on the sidelines waiting and are now coming in and say, look, I don't care about the tightening credit. I don't care about that. I'm going in now and buy at the right price, so that I can either rent them and have good cash flow, or I can rehab them and resell them,
Right.
To people. And they're looking at short sales, and they're looking at foreclosures, and they're looking at that ability to take that short sale headache out of the marketplace. Because if you can go in and buy a short sale and do well on it, and then take that away from being a short sale and make it available to that massive population that's out there, then you've increased the value of that property, because short sales just are inherently less valuable, because there's so many questions. As Alma Wells knows, there's you're not sure when you're going to close. You're not sure if it's going to get accepted. Does that sound pretty right?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay.
And every house is an investment. And you think about these first-time homeowners, even if you're not looking to go purchase these multi-units or, going out and purchase just one home alone. You buy now and buy right, can really position yourself to make that next step up when the market does turn around, whether it be 2 to 5 years from now, which you're predicting, to step up into something larger when that time comes, and that's, we've always talked about agents when we're showing, everybody wants a little bit more than they can afford. It's just kind of an American way, you always want more than what you can have, but a lot of people see their first home as that step up, just that first stepping stone to get into the second home. And what a great opportunity to do that, and maybe even miss that second step and go from your first to your third if you can buy now, buy right. Interest rates are low, prices are low. I mean, it gives you a nice climate to think that way, I think, if you're a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Now, the job security has to be there, because I know personally, without job security, you think you're going to be laid off or don't. It makes you nervous to purchase anything that's set. You have a 30-year mortgage, so you have to feel secure in your job. But if you have that, you're a buyer. You're a viable buyer in this marketplace and should be out there looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no question. Given that we have that affordability, one of the things that I think we'll talk about just after we take a break here in a minute or so, one of the things we want to talk about is the understanding of just exactly what's on the line when you're setting on the fence and you're like, I don't know whether, is it should we go now? Should we buy now? Is it right for me at this point? And so I think after we take a break, we're going to come down and we're going to talk about that. It's what we agents, we call it cost of waiting, and the potential risk of losing out on a perfect buying time. So what we're going to do is just take a couple minute break, and we're going to let you talk to a few of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. Stay streaming with us. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Yikes, when it comes to getting your carpet cleaned, don't just pick another name from the phone book. Call the company you already know and trust. From Springer Pest Solutions and Springer Handyman comes Springer Carpet Cleaning. Springer uses the best equipment available. No one can clean your carpet better. And with Springer, there's no hidden fees and no add-ons. Springer cleans your entire house the right way. We even return for spot cleaning throughout the year. Stick with the name you know and trust. Call Springer Carpet today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, listen, watch, chat. This is Webcast One Live. Programs on webcast1live.com are brought to you in part by KDC Builders, building custom homes for how you live. KDC will take your dreams and turn them into reality. Go to our website, kdcbuilt.com, or call Hannah Inman at 515-975-9990. And Tom Coates and ConsumerCreditOfAmerica.com. Are you overwhelmed with mounted credit card debt and feel there's no way out? Well, there is. Call 1-800-955-5765 for Consumer Credit of America. That's ccofamerica.com.
Hey, welcome back, and we appreciate you streaming along with us. I'm Lance Hansen with Alma Domazet, and this is, I'm sorry, I said Domazet again. See, it's just habit. I'm sorry. It's Alma Skuljic, and we are the hosts of Real Estate with RE/MAX. And we're here every Friday afternoon from 1:30 to 2:30. And one of the things that I gotta say, and you just sit there for a minute, don't worry, and you too, because neither one of you are involved in this. But later on, the Des Moines East Scarlets girls basketball team is playing Southeast Polk Rams.
That's big for the East Side.
And it is. It's big for the East Side. And it's a tough thing for me because, see, now all my grandkids are now Southeast Polk.
Right. But you're an East alum.
But I'm not an alum, but both my kids were, and I did a lot of fundraising and stuff with there. So I've just got one thing to say, and I just want to make sure you know this. Go Scarlets. East High all the way. Okay.
Wow.
So it's clear. I want everybody to know that
there was a line in the sand, and he drew it.
That's it. It's done. So anyway, I want our Scarlet girls to go out there and kick some booty and go on to state and take the title. So anyway, that's how I feel.
And for all you Southeast Polk people, he'll be sitting in the third row.
Yeah, right.
Away side.
Yeah,
a gray sweater.
Yeah, I apologize to all my Southeast Polk friends because we know a ton of people and we live and work out there, but I got to go with my heart on this one, and that's the Scarlets.
Pulling for the city team. I like it.
That's where we're going. So anyway, we're talking about home affordability and how that impacts, and that right now it's at its highest level. And outside of some tightening credit and some issues there, it's the time that if you're considering that in the next year, even if you're thinking, in the next year we might move, we might buy, we might, whatever, that now you really need to take a good look at things and see whether it's possible at this point. And one of the reasons for that is that of all of those things, the pricing that's out there now and the credit that's out there and that kind of thing, the only thing that is really like up in the air at this point is where interest rate's going to go. And virtually every economist out there says that says
They have to go up.
yeah, they're just destined to go up, and we don't know if it's going to be 0.5% or if it's going to be a full percent or where it's going to go. But the cost of waiting is that if you're out there looking at a $200,000 home and the interest rates move up, they're just below 5 now. So if they moved up to almost 6 in the next 6 months, and you decided to wait, or we're not sure we're ready, that kind of thing, then the $200,000 house that you were looking to buy, now you're in the market for a $180,000 house, because just that 1% change in the interest rate is going to have that dramatic of an impact on what you can afford to buy. And the only thing that changed was the interest.
Right.
So it's you're trading off in 20,000, even in that price range, that $200,000 price range, 20,000 really buys a completely different amenity package.
It really does.
Whether it's the third car garage, the finished basement, the extra interior frills, the square footage that's out there, and there's that $20,000 buys a lot. So that's my concern right now with people that are on the fence and that are waiting and are not sure what they want to do. My concern is, I understand, a little trepidation in the market. It hasn't, when you go back the last few years, you're like, oh, gee, I don't know. Do I really want to jump in after what we've seen in the last few years? But if, in fact, you are healthily employed, and your prospect is that you're going to stay that way, and your income supports, buying a home, that it certainly is a good time to go out there and take a look and see what's available and do something about it. So that's my cost of waiting.
I couldn't agree more. I think if you're especially first-time home buyers, we need them in the marketplace. Come out and visit your open houses, get online,
call
ask,
Alma, right?
Call Alma.
Alma.
Call Remax Real Estate Concepts for sure.
Yes.
Make sure you do that. But
Yes.
get out there and look with your realtor. There's a lot of great things out there, a lot of great pricing out there, and interest rates. I mean, how long can you expect to see 5% interest rates anyway? So it's been the whole decade, and we spent the first prior decade of that. It didn't dip below 7. So I mean, people got to understand that historically you don't have 5% interest rates anyway.
No.
If you can get a 7.5% interest rate, your grandparents would tell you, "Oh, jump all over it," because that's a decent interest rate, and you're probably eventually going to see them settle in some point around there and stay there for a while. So you talk about jumping up a point. Eventually, whether it be 3, I don't know how. I mean, no one knows. No one has a crystal ball, but 5% interest rate. If you look at historically, they haven't been that low. You think you have to go back to the 50s to get to an era where it was consistently below 5%. So now, a lot of people are going to take our advice, and they're going to get out there maybe a little bit ahead they thought, but they're going to be grateful that they did. And then there's going to be those people who didn't, and you'll see.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to be proven wrong. I'd love to see rates stay in that 5% range.
Right.
For the whole year.
It's just tough to sustain that.
Why not? But nobody out there, economist-wise and investor-wise and any of those things, are considering that that's an option. They're just, with inflationary concerns, and we're not seeing this huge inflationary pressure yet. But when you go overseas, there's just country after country that inflation is just starting to be rampant. And I don't, do you know from Bosnia in that area? Do you know any of the stuff that goes on there? Whether anything's going crazy or?
Nope.
I mean, I don't know how much contact you have.
It's hard enough to keep tabs on what West Des Moines
between you or Otis, whether or not
Exactly,
there's
exactly.
there's people there that that you stay in touch with, but
Not that much. I don't stay in touch.
okay, it's because you're American.
I am.
Yeah, so, and I totally understand. But we're going to have this push for rates to move up just to stem inflation. I mean, it's going to have to. And, I'm hearing on the news that for tomatoes, for crying out loud, are like $1 more a pound in just the last week. Gas has gone up.
Well, gas will affect everything just because that's how stuff gets here. So if gas goes up automatically, everything on your products goes up. From your lumber, now your lumber goes up, now your housing prices go up. It's just the whole thing. So gas is kind of like houses. When people buy houses, it stimulates the economy because you're going out and you're going to buy furniture and you're going to buy pictures and you're going to buy little candles and you have to buy dishes and stimulate. Just the same thing. Gas makes the whole world go around. So when that goes up, so does everything else.
Yeah, and Alma, you're probably is it every day that you're now stopping to get gas?
Every day.
I know you will. What
Day.
is it, like $10 is all
Well,
you'll
I have
pump
a rule.
at a time?
I don't wait too long. If the pump is too slow, I gotta go. And,
Hybrid people, hybrid.
Yeah.
I
Hybrid.
fill up once every 2 weeks. It's beautiful.
That's it, huh? And you drive a hybrid vehicle?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were.
It's
green.
nice. I'm
He's
green.
green.
I'm
He's,
green.
He's green.
Yes, I'm all about the community, folks. All about the community.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
And that's good information, and we're glad that you shared it. So anyway, I did bring the interest rate tracker that I use, which I get the daily interest, from one certain lender, and that's kind of my tracking mechanism. And over the last week, it's only bounced around maybe an eighth. It's still kind of just floating. It's either 5% or just under 5%. I see on Facebook, I see people touting 4 3/4. I'm sure you've got to have like an 800 credit score and 20% down.
Yeah,
and,
buy it down or something.
that kind of stuff to do 4 3/4. But, if you got it, flaunt it. I mean,
Right.
that's how that works. So, one thing we're just gonna breeze through real quick, and we talked about this briefly a little while ago, but and then we're going to spend the last segment. We're going to talk about investors and if you're interested in getting in the market as an investor and what that's like. So the thing is, if you're in the marketplace, if you're going out to sell a house, and then the other end of it is the buying of the home, and I think buyers specifically are, but why do I need a realtor? What is it that I need a realtor for? And so I wanted to get both of your takes on why do I need a realtor if I'm getting ready to go buy a house?
I
What are
give
they
you
gonna do?
20 reasons probably right off the top of my head. Should I just go? Should I just go?
Yeah,
20.
sure.
Well, number one, before we even get to the part of negotiating the sale, which real estate agents go through countless amount of hours to refine their skills on how to negotiate properly. But identifying the house that you want is not as easy as you may think. There's a lot of things that you gloss over that a real estate agent who's been in business a while can really identify, such as routine maintenance issues that the home may have, as well as any. Now, realtors aren't inspectors by any means, but a good one will identify an age of a furnace, concrete block foundation versus a newer one that's poured, or versus a brick or tile, copper plumbing versus the galvanized. Do we got 3 ground wiring versus 2 ground? Those type of things. Single tab shingles, how many layers? Things that you might not observe with the naked eye, being an untrained, just going out and shopping. And it'll make you really consider as you're comparing these homes. And remember, looking at homes is not selecting. It's a matter of, what's the word I'm searching for? It's
eliminating.
Eliminating, yeah. It's the process of elimination, which one stands out. So real estate agents are also good at keeping an organization of which ones you rate the highest. Because when you go through 10 to 20 houses, they can start to blur together, especially if you're looking at new construction, because a lot of them are the same floor plans over and over. So they keep track of which ones you like the best, and then eventually, through the process of elimination, going back to your top 3 and trying to select one for you. Then you get to the negotiation process, which I think a real estate agent is just invaluable in this regard. If they're worth anything, to get you the best price and the best terms that are possible. Maybe some incentive packages from builders that they've had experience with that may not be offered, but they know they can get them. And then, of course, seeing the process through from A to Z to closing, from the time that you actually do make the offer to the time that you're getting the keys and closing. To have all those things, and I would say 99% of the time you're not paying for it. The seller is offering a commission. So you get all those years, you get all 25 to 30 years of experience, Lance, for free. Of course,
Dang.
That's a lot of experience.
I'm
and then,
cheap.
I know you are cheap, but I think everybody knows that. So we're going to keep on topics that are fresh.
There you go.
And but I think that alone, having that kind of professional, and of course, you always like to have someone else's opinion. And a good agent will give you their opinion regardless of how you feel about the home. I know I will, and I've probably talked to a few people out of buying homes they thought they were going to. And I said, well, not that I talk them out of it, but I said, just be aware of this. Be aware of that. When you go to resale, you sure you want that yard at a 45-degree angle coming towards the house? I mean, those type of things that they may not think about because they get wrapped up in the emotion.
I actually had a little, I guess you'd call it eye-opener, is that there's a couple that I'm working with, and the wife in this couple, I've worked with her for almost 20 years, and buying and selling houses and that kind of thing, and so they're going to sell their house and buy a new one, and Alma and Otis were kind enough one day when I couldn't be out showing them houses, and so they took them out and showed them around and that kind of stuff. And I got this whole diatribe of how wonderful Alma was and how she talked about all these features in the homes and everything. And I'm like going, wait,
That's why she's my client now.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I may not be working with her much longer. But it was that.
I think her son was there with us. So.
Yes. And he's a big fan.
Yeah.
But she really was. I mean, it made a difference. Because you had dialogue with her and gave input, and she noticed that, where I don't know whether I didn't give input or whether I just kind of allowed them to do their thing, but you were right up front with her and talking to her, and this is really cool, and you said you liked this and that, and so yeah, I got to hear all about that. How wonderful Alma was. I got to hear all.
Lance
about
needs to sharpen his skills.
I think so. I'm gonna have fun with Alma around and listen to how she does it now, right?
Well, I tell you what, there's never a time where you can never sharpen you always sharpen your skills. Whether it be a young agent or someone who's been around as long as you. I mean, there's a lot to be learned from everybody and how they deal with people.
That is definitely for sure. Hey, we're gonna have to take another quick break.
Cool.
So I see on the clock as it ticks away. So what we're going to do is we'll take a minute or two and come back, and then we're going to talk about investing and maybe how you might get into it and what you're thinking about. And we're going to explore a couple of mistakes that Matt is going to admit to in his investing career.
For sure.
So stick with us. We'll be back in just a minute or two.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Yikes, when it comes to getting your carpet clean, don't just pick another name from the phone book. Call the company you already know and trust. From Springer Pest Solutions and Springer Handyman comes Springer Carpet Cleaning. Springer uses the best equipment available. No one can clean your carpet better. And with Springer, there's no hidden fees and no add-ons. Springer cleans your entire house the right way. We even return for spot cleaning throughout the year. Stick with the name you know and trust. Call Springer Carpet today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios. Listen, watch, chat. This is Webcast One Live. Programs on webcastonelive.com are brought to you in part by KDC Builders. Building custom homes for how you live. KDC will take your dreams and turn them into reality. Go to our website, kdcbuilt.com, or call Hannah Inman at 515-975-9990. And Tom Coates and ConsumerCreditOfAmerica.com. Are you overwhelmed with mounted credit card debt and feel there's no way out? Well, there is. Call 1-800-955-5765 for Consumer Credit of America. That's ccofamerica.com.
Hey, welcome back. We appreciate you sticking around and streaming live with us here. As you know, and in the podcast, you'll know this is Webcast One Live, and this is Real Estate with RE/MAX. I'm Lance Hansen here with Alma Skaljic and our special guest today, Matt Morrow. Our special guest. Yeah, short bus.
Yeah, short bus.
But he's in from our Southside office. He's the broker owner down there, and a wealth of knowledge on
plethora.
A plethora of that stuff. A plethora, I think, means more like a gathering,
a variety,
a whole bunch of
variety.
Stuff. A variety.
Yes.
Lots of
knowledge.
So we're going to try to zero down and specific that knowledge just a little bit, and talk about investing, because right now the investors are actually jumping in the market. They're recognizing that there's some very good deals to be had out there. And
yes.
if you've got cash money, which that's always great when you're investing because
right.
you can negotiate for the lowest. But also if you're in a situation where the bank will work with you on buying your first investment property, or if you've got commercial lending set up with a line of credit, there's a bunch of different ways that you can set that up and have just down payment instead of all cash. So first off, from your plethora. Of experience, let's talk about Alma's out and she wants to buy her first investment property. What should she be thinking?
Well, first, I think you have to establish whether it's a long-term or short-term goal.
Okay.
What I mean by that is first of all, there's so many ways to invest in real estate in so many different avenues, whether it be through tax sales, foreclosures, straight up buying estates, whatever. You heard about the flipper. That's a short term. Then, of course, you've heard about the guy that holds on to a rental property 20, 30 years. That would be considered long term. Mm-hmm. So establish what your goals are. Much like a stock market. Are you buying stocks for long term or short term? Establish that first, because that'll go directly into how you game plan.
Okay.
So let's say she wants to do a short term. She wants to become a flipper. Let's just say, does that sound good?
Sounds good.
You want to try to make $20,000 off your first
Just
flipper
bang.
house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this. The one thing I can think of is don't fall in love with one particular property. Make sure you have an assortment of viable options that you can make offers on. And remember, you're out for yourself. You're not out for anybody else. You're not looking out for the seller. You're looking out for your own interest. This is about profit. It's about bottom line. So don't be afraid to make a lower offer, especially in today's climate. If the property is what we call a distressed property, and that would be anybody who's involved in a short sale, anybody that's an executor of an estate that they're trying to sell, I consider that distressed property. Anybody who's gone through foreclosure, obviously that's pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to make a lower offer because it's all about the bottom line with them too. There's usually no emotional attachment in any of those situations, and try to get the lowest price that you can. You have to set a max cap of what you're willing to pay for the place. Anything more than that, you have to walk away. I was told a very long time ago by someone who I should have listened to, do not fall in love with these properties. And it's tough to do that because you start to get a vision. If you're like me, you're a very visual person, and you get a vision in your head, and you have to see that vision through, and sometimes it's at your own detriment. Whether you put too much money in the home or whether you pay too much for it because you like the area or something like that. So it's always about the bottom line. Detach yourself emotionally from the property, figure out whether it's short or long term, and then go from there. In a short-term flipper situation, I mean, right now FHA, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, has alleviated the 90-day turnaround rule.
Yes, for
Okay.
resale.
For those that are just listening, I mean, it was not more than a year ago. You bought a property, it had to be 90 days before you could resell it again. That has been lifted. So you can turn these around fairly quickly. Now, I have done personally probably about 15 flippers in my day. You have to establish time versus money because you got all these people out there that say, oh, I can tile, I can carpet, I can roof, I can windows. Well, it's going to take you 6 months to do the place because you're going to do it all yourself.
To get all your buddies.
You got all that holding costs, and I think that's the first mistake flippers make. They think about how much they're going to buy it for, how much they're going to put into it, not all the while thinking, how much is it going to cost me to hold it? Because if you're like me, when I was 23 and I bought my first flipper, I got a mortgage. I wasn't a cash buyer, which
Right.
a lot of you won't be.
Right.
And if you are, it's because you're probably a successful investor already. So if you're new at this, you gotta figure out your holding costs and try to figure out worst case scenario. Then of course you got your resale costs. Are you going to hire a realtor? And if so, how much is that going to be? What are my set costs if I don't hire a realtor? All those things play into your bottom line. So make sure you think it through. I think one thing that I didn't calculate on is the disposal. And you think that's easy. Well, how do you not calculate that? The actual getting rid of your waste.
Oh.
I mean, I had on one
When you've
house
got a
as
house.
much as $2,800 in getting
Yeah.
rid of stuff. Now, that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit of money, So you got to think of those things too, and then try to come up with your bottom line and see if it's profitable or not.
Okay. Alma, you ready to buy? You wanna go out
No.
there. You're not ready yet.
Well, there's a lot of money to be made in it. Me personally, I've always liked the States. I have always found that older people take really good care of their things.
Tend to,
not always, but tend to. What I mean by that is they normally have newer roofs. They have great insulation. They got new gutters. They got new furnaces. Now, what they do have is orange toilets, orange appliances, shag carpet. They're really 1950s. But that's the cheapest stuff to fix.
The cosmetic. More
Also,
cosmetic.
it's the easiest to do yourself. I mean, you as an investor, you better get used to changing toilets. You better get used to changing faucets and shut-off valves and a little minor electric and stuff like that. Painting, to try to save yourself some money. Those are all things you can do yourself. Whereas furnaces, roofs, any structural or basement foundation, electrical, plumbing, you're going to be hiring somebody, and they're not cheap. So. I always like estates. I think they're quick. And so it all depends on can they be bought right. And what you'll find a lot is that grandson, granddaughter, daughter, niece, someone's got this property free and clear. Sometimes not. They don't even live in this state. They don't have any emotional attachment to it, and it's even more of a burden because they have to line up the snow removal, they have to line up the heating, they have to pay the utilities, they have to pay for the grass to be cut. They want their money and they want out. I love estates.
Okay.
That's why I specialize in selling them too, help people sell them. So though I've had the most success with those. I managed to keep a lot of them for rentals. I went from more a short-term goal personally for like 3 or 4 years into a long-term goal where I'm holding on to my houses now.
So and did you use the short-term investment? Did you use that to try to gain some money?
I did.
So that then you could invest in more longer term.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. 'Cause that seems to be the way I think a lot of people go is you go in, take the chance, and it's a risk when you buy that house and you're going to go in, fix it up, and turn it over. I mean, you've got that risk of am I spending too much? Did I make the right decision? Is the area going to support where I want to go? Is there a buyer available? What kind of financing? All those things that are factors. But if you can get through that, and you can turn a house, and on most flip turns, depending on how good you are, how much you do on your own, you can go anywhere from 10 to 20, even 30,000 for guys that really know what they're doing,
Right.
have crews in place and ready to go. You can turn 10 to 30,000 when you buy a house and do it right and turn it over. And so it doesn't take a long time to start. You flip a house, you've got a nice down payment for a longer term investment. So you go out and find a house that you can buy right, you turn it into a good rental property, and then you're set up for good cash flow and longer term investment on that property. The greatest thing about rentals is that somebody else pays that mortgage for you, and you get write-offs. You're writing off depreciation, you're writing off service and things that go on there. And the sagest advice I got was when a speaker said, if you want to be a millionaire, borrow $1 million and have somebody else pay it off for you. That's the easiest way to become a millionaire, and that's in essence what you're doing when you're financing real estate. Is that you go out, you borrow the money, you put your portion of down payment down, and then the renters pay the payments, and they pay that loan off. And after a period of time, whether it's your 15, 20, 25, then it becomes your property. And so I've had countless people that I've started out when they were younger, and they bought 1 and 2 and 3 and worked their way through, but that they were looking, okay, that's retirement. And it's pretty easy that if you end up with 10 houses and you can cash flow those after they're paid off, you can cash flow those houses at $500-600 a piece. That's a decent, healthy retirement income when you're thinking, okay, I'm going to pick up $5,000 a month for owning those properties. And if you can get them lined up and get them paid off in 20 years, you start out, you're a 30-year-old person, and you pay them off in 20 years, you're 50, and you've got a constant $5,000 a month flow that comes in, and you don't ever lose any of your equity. Your investment is still solid. So it's just a tremendous way, and the way things are going now, I think young people really need to take a look at, do I buy a couple of these? And it's a pain. We never want to say that it's easy. As you know, renters are not easy people sometimes. No. They're demanding. They don't take as good a care of the property as you'd like them to. They're transient, so they move in. They're there 6 months a year. They move out. You got to redo and clean up and get things ready. But overall, if you look at that and you figure, a part-time job. Your boyfriend's here again. You get it. If you had a part-time job, and you worked a part-time job for 20 years, could you have $1 million set aside because of that part-time job? It'd be really hard to fathom. But if you bought real estate and that became your part-time job, where sometimes in the evening, sometimes on the weekends, you had to do things, and over a period of the next 20 years, you ended up having $1 million worth of equity sitting in rental properties and a consistent cash flow of $500 or $5,000, $6,000 a month. It's a pretty good part-time job.
Well, I look at it this way, and this is why I shifted from short-term to long-term, is I realized that of course I was selling and reselling in a hot market.
Yes.
And some neighborhoods at that time, Beaverdale was my best, because I could list it, and I was like halfway through the remodeling process. You could visualize what was going on there, and it would sell.
Yeah.
So there was literally no holding costs. But as far as real estate agents go, and a lot of people, even if you do have a retirement setup, why not have more? But as real estate agents, we don't have anything. You got to go out and get it. You got to go out and get it yourself. So my thought process was, why not hang on to these? I've already done fall in love with them, put too much money in them, right? I told you that. So why not hold on to them? Like you said, have someone pay them off for you, and then have some assets when you're ready to retire, whether that be $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, whatever your goals are, you know? And that's very easy to do in the sense of collecting properties. What is not easy is, like you mentioned, is dealing with renters and their turnover. It can be anything worth doing's got a price to be paid, and that certainly has its price.
It's a decision that you make too. I think if you're that person that's going to just buy a few, maybe you're only going to own 2 or 3 properties, and that's all you're going to do. and you take care of them yourself. You only hire if you've got some major issue going on. You kind of do your own thing and stuff. But what happens is you have a scenario where at some point you're going to get to a number where it becomes burdensome. And I had 2 different investors that they were getting up where they were getting like 9 properties, 10 properties, and it was just becoming just overbearing, where they were getting calls constantly and they had to go do this and they were working constantly on them. And so the decision then was, do you just get out and go down to, okay, I'm only going to own a couple, or do you dive in more and buy more? And by buying more, what happens is because of the volume that you have, then you start having a property manager that takes care of renting the properties out and getting the lease signs and collecting the rent and dealing with the tenants on a basis. Do you get enough properties where you have a person who is the general handy person that can pretty much do everything? And so, if something goes wrong, there's some issue, you call them, send them out, they take care of business. So it's not you going out there all the time. But, it's that there's a real tough line, and everybody's got their own, whether 1 or 2 is as much as you can stand, or like in my case, is it 8 or 9 before, we start pulling our hair out and going crazy.
That's about where I'm at. Can I give a little bit of advice for those would-be landlords out there?
Yes.
1, try to focus on ranches. And the reason why is because if you have an unfinished basement, it's real easy to get from the plumbing to the up. You're not threading through walls. Same thing with the wiring. Same thing with the furnace. Same with everything when it comes to a ranch. Try to select 3 bedrooms. They rent for more and they rent faster. And 2, try not to buy anything older than 1950. And the reason why is because you have 3 ground wiring at that point, and you got copper plumbing, and you usually have concrete block foundations, which can be as bad as brick or clay, but still you have somewhat of a newer home with the 3 ground wiring and the plumbing that's going to function a lot better than your old 2 ground wiring, old clay foundations that usually leak and things like that. The exception would be Beaverdale, of course. They all have older foundations over there.
Yeah.
They're probably pretty good rentals over there, I'd imagine. I don't have any personally, but I imagine they probably rent out fairly good.
Yeah, I just thumbed through my list of properties that I own, and not one of them fits any of that criteria.
Well, I have one.
I should have listened to you 10 years ago.
But it's true, though, wouldn't you say? I mean, especially the ranch part of getting your plumbing and your electric, when it's all just right there and the guy has to just look up and get it done. It's, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot more affordable for you to keep and buy nice properties. Buy nice. You can do anything cosmetically, but the bones are the bones, unless you're going to do something immediately. You buy something that's nice already. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are buying $60,000, $70,000 rentals, but you're going to have problems. I've always bought nice homes, and I take pride in having nice homes. And for the landlord that's going to sit there and stack them and one after the other, I did it where I always lived in mine first for a little bit. I always bought mine as an owner-occupant. Okay. Now, you can do that. And you can make lateral moves, meaning lateral moves in value. I mean, people like 120 to 130 to 115. As soon as you go up, like I did, to 160, you're done. They will not allow you to recede and buy as an owner-occupant, go back and buy 120 again.
Yeah.
They just don't. They just don't do that. So get as many as you're comfortable with, then you can go buy the house that you want to live in. But you got to make those lateral moves, and they have a cap on how many they'll loan you on. So
yeah, and that gets harder, and it gets into a whole thing of financing, commercial lending. And all that.
If you can get into a small town, I'm not gonna. I mean, like West Bank. I know Stephanie Avery was a guest here. She's a vice president of West Bank, and there's some other whether you're involved in a credit union. Man, if you can build that relationship with that institution, you are in a great situation.
Yeah.
Because they get to know you and your assets, and it's they keep your portfolio and everything in-house, and it makes things a lot easier than trying to go to a national institution.
Well, you know what? As we said before the show, I mean, we could sit and go on for hours with stuff that's out there and things we can talk about and knowledge that we could share, but we're out of time.
We're out of time.
We're out of time. Yeah. So we're gonna have to shut her down. But Matt Morrow. Always appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
It's good to talk to you and lots of information. And Alma, as always, it's good to see you and good to hear from you. And what we're going to do is come back next week, Friday at 1:30 to 2:30. And what I want you to do is stay tuned because at 3 o'clock, Hard Hat and High Heels is going to be on. And that's always an entertaining show. They always bring something special and fun to work with. So until next week, I'm Lance Hanson. This is Real Estate with RE/MAX, and we'll see you soon.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios. Listen, watch, chat. This is Webcast One Live. Programs on webcastonelive.com are brought to you in part by KDC Builders, building custom homes for how you live. KDC will take your dreams and turn them into reality. Go to our website, kdcbuilt.com, or call Hannah Inman at 515-975-9990. And Tom Coates and ConsumerCreditOfAmerica.com. Are you overwhelmed with mounted credit card debt and feel there's no way out? Well, there is. Call 1-800-955-5765 for Consumer Credit of America. That's ccofamerica.com.